there's been a shocking amount of pro Osama bin Laden praise on social media. It's been trending on Twitter. It's all over TikTok. And for anyone watching this who might not have seen it, it's essentially videos of Americans talking about how Osama bin Laden was right in relation to Jewish people in Israel and that America is to blame. And they cite the letter he wrote right after 9/11. And I would point out to the audience, in that letter, Osama bin Laden literally calls for the death of all Americans. He says that none of us are innocent and we all deserve 9/11 repeatedly until we're all gone. That's what they're citing as justification for praising Osama bin Laden. When you see Americans, young Americans mostly, praising the former leader of Al-Qaeda, what are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. The laugh because are you really that dumb? And that makes me kind of laugh, but also makes me want to cry. Part of this, I think, is really orchestrated. I wonder how many of those people actually read the letter. Because if you watch some of these TikTok videos, I'm not on TikTok, but I've seen them played in other outlets. And they're saying things like, I saw the letter. What letter? The letter. What letter? The letter from Osama. It's like all this produced, very high production value stuff that clearly this thing is, it's like it feels organized to me. It all happened at the same time. It feels very organized. Again, this goes back to what is proliferating on campuses, as you talked about earlier, in Wisconsin, Berkeley, wherever. Is this oppressor versus oppressed? Those are the only two classes of humans on the planet. That's it. And if you're not one, you're the other. So, even Bill Maher had to say the other day that he said, Barack Obama rarely disappoints me, but he did when he said we're all complicit in this Hamas thing. I mean, I don't understand that thinking. I really don't. We're complicit in the massacre of innocent people. Holy cow. Where do you get that justification? So it's scary. It's sad. I hope it's a flash in the pan. I don't know what's going to wake these students up. I don't.
Flash in the pan. I hope you're right. I fear that you are definitely not.
Yeah.
It says a lot about the state of America that 22 years ago, a little more than 22 years ago after 9/11, I couldn't imagine anyone praising Osama. I mean, I was in fourth grade at the time, but I still remember we were out to avenge every single person who died. I know many people that went and participated in that at the highest levels of those campaigns, including guys that ironically were on the Osama bin Laden raid. I would love these students to look those guys in the face and tell them word for word what they said in those TikTok videos.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to look the vets in the eyes. I want them to look the families of 9/11 victims in the eyes. And I want them to praise Osama bin Laden to people who's actually been impacted. Education might fix a lot of this. Maybe it won't. To me, we're a broken society and you're a broken person.
Yeah.
If that's how you feel, I'm at a loss for words about those bin Laden videos.
I wonder how many of those young people have been to the museum at the World Trade Center, the 9/11 Memorial Museum. I'd love them to walk through there and come out and read the letter again, if they even read it to begin with, because I'm not convinced that all of them have. I mean, we are a broken society.
Do you feel that right now, with how broken things are, that there's really any reason to be optimistic about the near future? I mean, is there anything you think about that really makes you optimistic? Maybe it's great kids like you were talking about. Maybe it's people finally pushing back like you and Sage Steele. What gives you optimism that we can kind of get this turned around?
It's amazing. I just before I came on with you, I interviewed a man by the name of Yinam Cohen. He is the Midwest Israeli consul. So in other words, he represents Israel to the Midwest. And I asked him that exact question at the end of our interview. I said, what gives you hope? And he said, what gives me hope is that in 3 weeks, we're having a bunch of young people from throughout the Middle East, from Egypt, from Saudi Arabia, from the UAE, from Israel, to meet in Chicago. And we're going to talk about the future. I guess what gives me hope is also that people are waking up. It's such an important question you've just asked. And I ask it on my podcast every day to my guests. What gives you hope? Because we need it so badly. And so many people have said, what gives me hope is that people are starting to open their eyes. And that, 2 years ago, you wouldn't see these groups amassing. And now you're seeing it happen. And so we have to have some faith in that we can kind of, that like-minded people who share values will finally come together. I spoke to a group of parents a couple of weeks ago, and I was told that this little organization was just 2 years old, and it started with just a few parents, and there were probably 100, 150 people from this small city here in Minnesota. And I spoke to them, and we talked, and they talked about the things that they're now doing that they never thought they would have to do. So I'm hopeful that is a movement that is growing, and that people are deciding, you know what, enough is enough.